everyone, my name's Amy, and today we're going to be talking about the recent thing that has happened with Jon Venus. Jon Venus isn't vegan anymore, and he just posted a video a week ago today about the reason why. And I find it kind of funny that it went up on the exact same day that I posted a video saying I'm not going to post again that week. So, before we begin, I'm going to tell you guys what this video is not going to do. This video is not going to belittle Jon Venus. This is not going to judge Jon Venus, and the point of this video is not to degrade him in any way. He is an adult, and regardless as to whether or not I think his choice is ethical, logical, or whether or not I agree with it, he is able to make the decisions that he wants to make. And he has. What this video is going to do, on the other hand, is I'm going to talk about the different things that he brought up in his video explaining why he was no longer vegan, and talk about my perspective and some of the science behind it, just to kind of give some clarity for what actually is happening in regards to these specific things. Alright, so if at any point you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe. Also, check me out on all of this social media for daily tips, tricks, and facts about exercise, veganism, and nutrition. Alright, so let's get started. So, the first thing that I want to talk about is how Jon Venus says that nutrition is a very confusing and misunderstood topic, and how because there are so many questions out there that are still unanswered in nutrition, you can almost not trust any of it at all.
And I think we can all agree, or people who have looked into the scientific literature, we can agree that nutrition itself is a very confusing and not really understood topic, and it is, understood to a certain degree, but there are very many question marks. So,
well, it's a science. Nutrition is a science. That's actually what my degree that I'm going to be getting is called, nutritional science. And because of that, there's always going to be questions. Science is pursuit of answers to various questions, and every time you get an answer, there's going to be another question that winds up getting opened up, and that's just the way and the nature of science. And so by saying that because there are so many questions out there, you can't trust any of it, that doesn't work. You can't say that because we don't know everything, therefore we can't know anything. There is a lot of stuff out there in nutrition that we do happen to understand quite a bit. And those things are what we make recommendations on as dietitians, which is the eventual goal of me studying at school. If we didn't actually know anything about nutrition, we wouldn't be able to have dietitians. We wouldn't be able to have groups like Ascend, and we wouldn't be able to do anything regarding that. But because we know some, we're able to make recommendations based around the some that we know.
You take a study and you use that study to come to a conclusion, but then another person with a whole another opinion will take that same exact study and come to the opposite conclusion to someone else.
And oftentimes this happens because of misrepresentation rather than the exact same study being able to say two completely different things. And this happens the most in regards to media and to social media. As I'm becoming a registered dietitian, I actually am required to take a class specifically looking at this, because misrepresentation of the nutritional scientific literature happens so incredibly often. And the saddest part is that a lot of people are more willing to listen to a journalist than to a nutrition expert about nutrition. And I highly recommend listening to someone who is a nutrition expert or will become one. I mean, you're not going to go to a doctor's office and see a journalist to get diagnosed with a disease or get prescribed medication. So why would you listen to them about how you should be able to fuel your body? The goal of media in general, social media and TV networks and other big organizations, is to get as many views as possible. And oftentimes things are done like this through sensationalization of information. That's why nutrition is so confusing. And not only that, you also have some biases that do come out in scientific literature that I've talked about before. You can check out this video to see more of how different industries can actually influence science. And when some of those studies come out that are contradictory to some of the other scientific literature that is out there, you wind up with media literally just jumping on it. And that is why nutrition is confusing. Jon Venus also talks about the idea of bias in research, especially bias coming from the vegan community itself.
A lot of times when you're vegan, especially for me, you are in this bubble. You are in the mindset of, we are doing something that is ethical. We're doing this because it feels right in every single way. And this is my perspective, and because this is my perspective, we're only going to listen to other people with the same perspective that have the same mission to eliminate animal suffering, to live a plant-based lifestyle, a vegan diet, and so on. So it becomes almost like you have to only look for answers and research that comes from people that is going to support your bias. Anything outside of pro-vegan becomes the opposite.
And it can sometimes be easy to fall into this. If you believe something, people often want to get that belief confirmed rather than trying to confront it, which is a little bit harder. It is still absolutely possible to be unbiased, look at the scientific literature, and be a vegan. In fact, you could actually say that being an omnivore is a form of bias as well, because you might be biased in favor of meat instead of against it. Every single person has a bias for or against something, and we all need to be working on confronting it. All right, now let's get to looking at some science. Jon claims that there is not enough evidence to be able to show that children can be safe on a 100% plant-based diet.
Big organizations like the American Dietetics Association, all that mixed together makes it extremely easy to just believe 100% that you are doing the right thing. And I'm not saying that it's a wrong thing, but it makes it easy not to question it and look at the opposite or another different point of view. After looking into the Dietetics Association, corporate ties, all these, different corruptions that are going on, and looking at the science for children, especially because this is the reason why I started questioning everything. There is extremely little science, and I am not convinced at all by the science that is used to support those claims. And I strongly believe that we cannot say for certain that one thing, something like the vegan diet, 100% vegan diet, is going to be optimal for kids. It may be optimal. I'm not saying that it's not. And we look up to so many vegan parents that are doing an amazing job raising vegan kids, and we respect them so much.
And while there are only a few studies out there, they actually show that it is absolutely possible and safe for kids to be vegan from birth. As a matter of fact, a study just came out of Germany that was 3 years long looking at this specific thing. They took some children that were raised as vegans, children that were raised as vegetarians, and children that were raised as omnivores, and compared them over the course of 3 years to see how they would grow, how their development was, and what they found was, quote, Median weight for height, height for age, and weight for age z-scores did not differ significantly between the groups, even after adjustment for various covariates. So basically, the vegan children, the vegetarian children, and the omnivore children all developed at a similar rate. Now, there still are some things to consider when you are raising a kid as a vegan, and while I am not a dietitian and cannot necessarily give recommendations for this, I do have linked down in the description box, separate from the rest of the research that's going to be in this video, which is in a link that'll bring you over to my website. But in the link in the description box, there's going to be an article that is from the Italian Society of Human Nutrition, which breaks down all of their recommendations for how to raise a child as a vegan. Following that will be able to help you raise your child in a very healthy way, as shown by that German study earlier. I do want to quickly note one thing that Jon Venus says about doing something for a long period of time.
This is not something that I, as a parent, as a father, am comfortable with doing. I'm not comfortable of dismissing, hundreds of thousands of years or even millions of years of a certain, eating pattern, and instead do something that requires supplementation to make possible.
I want to just throw in the fact that doing something for an extremely long period of time does not necessarily mean that it's a good thing to do. And that's why science exists, that's why nutritional science exists, to be able to examine everything and determine what recommendations work to be able to help people be their healthiest. So he also talks about B12 and not feeling comfortable with supplements. And I can kind of understand that. Lots of dietitians and just nutrition and experts in general will push the idea that you should get your nutrition from food, which is absolutely true. But supplements exist like medicine, basically. That's the way I think about it. If someone has a severe nutritional deficiency, then obviously they should really be able to take a supplement to be able to cover over that, just like as if someone needed to take a medication for a medical condition. Now, there is one case that is slightly different than other ones, and that is in the case of vitamin B12. Lots of vegans and vegetarians and nutrition professionals also push the idea of us taking vitamin B12. And the reason is that there's no source of it in plant products. More people than just vegans and vegetarians are actually deficient in vitamin B12. One study more recently actually found that men had a deficiency rate of about 25.5% and women had a deficiency rate of about 18%. But mind you, also the highest percentage that I've seen estimated for people being vegan in the United States is 3%, which is significantly lower than the number of people who might actually have a clinical or subclinical vitamin B12 deficiency. So more people than just vegans or vegetarians do need to be taking vitamin B12. This is a common recommendation for people in general. He also talks about possible nutritional deficiencies that could come with being vegan and doesn't name any people, doesn't name anything like that. And I completely understand why he would do that. I mean, it's absolutely okay to keep your personal medical history and that of other people around you private.
I have had some question marks because of personal experiences, because of my real life observations and nutrient deficiencies in people that are very, very close to me. And I don't want to give any personal information, so I'm not going to talk in detail about any of that.
And the thing is that any kind of poorly planned diet can cause nutritional deficiencies. Any kind of poorly planned diet. Omnivorous, carnivorous, or vegan. And really the only way to know if you personally are at risk for these nutritional deficiencies is to go and get a blood test. I actually haven't done this, and I will be making a video on it when I get it done, but please, blood tests are important. It helps check to make sure that you're doing okay with your nutrition. Jon also talks about the long-term health of people who are vegan or vegetarian.
You know, I cannot be certain of the long-term implications of the diets. Just because it works extremely well and helps reverse disease in the short term, it doesn't really translate into what happens and what the limitations are long term.
And the thing is that there's actually a few studies that do look at the long-term health of vegans and vegetarians. This study looked at both the EPIC Oxford study, which is a 3-year-long study, and the Adventist 2 Health study, which was a 6-year-long study, and found some pretty remarkable things. In the EPIC Oxford study specifically, they found that vegans had a decreased risk of cancer from about 11% all the way up to 19% for all types of cancer, and had a frequency of high blood pressure at about 5% for men and 6.8% for women. And high blood pressure is pretty significant and does lead to a lot of cardiovascular issues and a lot of death. According to the Adventist 2 Health study, vegans had a 16% lower risk of all types of cancer, a 63% lower risk of high blood pressure as compared to omnivores, and a 62% lower risk of type 2 diabetes. And also, according to the Adventist 2 Health study, vegans had 88% of the risk of all-cause mortality that omnivores did. So what that means is that there was a 12% decreased risk in all-cause mortality for vegans. Alright, so I just want to conclude this video with this statement from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, or ASCEND, which is the accrediting body for nutrition experts in the United States. It is the position of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics that vegetarian diets may provide health benefits in the prevention and treatment of certain health conditions, including atherosclerosis, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and obesity. Well-designed vegetarian diets that may include fortified foods or supplements meet current nutrition recommendations and are appropriate for all stages of the life cycle, including pregnancy, lactation, infancy, childhood, and adolescence. Vegetarians must use special care to ensure an adequate intake of vitamin B12. So yes, a vegan diet is safe for adults, for children, for older adults, for basically everyone, as long as you are making sure that it is a well-planned vegan diet that includes a wide variety of fruits, vegetables, grains, beans, nuts, and seeds to get all of the nutrients and nutrition that you do need. Alright, so I really hope that this video helps you be able to understand a little bit more about a vegan diet and be able to understand that it is, in fact, safe for children. And I hope that you always remember to love God, eat greens, get moving. See you in the next video.